Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. My name is Rebecca, and today we'll be having fun in the kitchen while we make some homemade chewy gummy bears. Now if you saw my previous video, you'll see how I made a really simple and healthy gummy bear. But for today's recipe, we're going to make that classic chewy gummy bear that when you bite into, it's more like a store-bought gummy bear. Homemade candy is a great way to share some sweet treats with people you care about. You can make little bags full of homemade candy that will go into gift baskets or perhaps an Easter basket. You can even make some homemade candy to go on a snack bar for a movie night. So follow along while we make these classic chewy gummy bears. Alright, so for making our chewy gummy bears, first what we need to do is prepare our gelatin. So what I will take is a 1/4 cup. You can either do cold water, or if you have the particular juice flavor of the gummy bear flavor that you will be making, use that juice. So I have a 1/4 cup of orange juice because I'll be making some orange gummy bears first. And to that 1/4 cup of cold juice, I'll add 2 tablespoons of gelatin. And I'll mix that in. And we'll just let this sit for 5 to 10 minutes until that gelatin absorbs that liquid and what is called blooms. Basically, you're just setting it aside. So for the gelatin, I like to buy in bulk, and I buy unflavored beef gelatin such as this one. You can also purchase gelatin by Knox, and they come in these little envelopes. If you're using the envelopes, you use 2 of these. So now the gelatin is all set, we'll move on to making our sugar mixture. So we'll have a small saucepan to medium-high heat, and to this we will add a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of water, as well as 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. If you don't have lemon juice, you could do a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. So we're going to mix this up and just let this heat up so that the sugar dissolves. Then we're going to let this continue to cook through until it reaches about 235 degrees Fahrenheit, which is between thread and softball stage on a candy thermometer. So you could use a candy thermometer such as this, and it shows the different stages for candy. You could also use a laser thermometer, such as you oftentimes see me use when I'm doing my canning projects. I also have this handy little silicone spatula with a thermometer right in it, and this slides out for easy cleanup. If you want a more definitive read, you can also take it out and check it that way. Any of those methods would be perfectly fine. If you don't have a candy thermometer or a thermometer such as the ones I showed you, you can just take a small dish of cold water and using a spoon, just drop a little bit of your sugar mixture when you think it's to about that temperature. When it reaches the thread stage of 230 degrees, the sugar inside of the cold water will create what looks like these little threads or little string appearance to the sugar. And then once you reach the softball stage, when you put a little dollop of the sugar mixture in the cold water, if you take your fingers, you can clump it up into a soft ball. So this will come up to a boil and it'll start bubbling quite a bit. We'll see bubbles at the base, middle, and towards the surface. We want to catch it right around that 235 degrees. So we'll let this cook and come up to a boil, and we'll come back for the next step. So our sugar mixture is starting to bubble on the base of the pan. We're at about 205 degrees. So we're at about the thread stage. When I put a little bit of the sugar solution in here, it made these little wispy threads or string-like appearance to the sugar. It's getting a little bit more of a golden brown color. There, and now when I push it together in this cool water, it makes a soft ball. So now we will add our next ingredient, which is a 1/4 cup of corn syrup. So we'll mix that into there just until it's well combined. Now we're going to add our gelatin to this. We're just going to stir this gelatin around until it dissolves into our sugar mixture. Turn this back on. We want our gelatin to melt through here. There we go. Our gelatin is all melted through and everything is nicely combined throughout. So if you use water at the beginning of this recipe for our sugar mixture, now is when you can add your flavoring. So I would add 3 to 5 drops of whatever flavor you're using. I used the orange juice, but I want it to be even more orange flavor, so I'm going to add a few drops of the orange flavoring as well. We'll just mix that through. Now I have my gummy bear molds, and I have a set that came with 3 molds and the coordinating little droppers that work really well for adding to the molds. I'm going to just draw up some of this gummy bear solution and add it to each of these little gummy bear shaped wells. These are a 1-inch gummy bear, and I really like this size. It's a little bit of a bigger gummy bear, and they have a really nice detail to them, so they're really cute. I can provide a link in the description box below if you're interested in picking up some fun little gummy bear molds yourself. If you don't have any particular shaped molds, you could also pour this mixture into a bread loaf pan that you sprayed with some oil prior, and then you could just refrigerate that and cut it into whatever shape you wanted, little squares or things like that. But I'm going for the classic gummy bear here, so I'm using my gummy bear molds. We filled 1 tray of our gummy bear molds so far. Let's see how many more we can fill from the second tray. I'm hoping to get about 1.5 so that I can do a second flavored gummy bear and use all 3 of the molds that I have out today. That looks good. So I just ran some warm water into my saucepan. I put these pans into the refrigerator for about 3 hours, or until our gummy bears have hardened inside of their mold. Alright, so now let's move on to the next flavor. And I'm going to make a watermelon gummy bear. So in this measuring cup I have 1/4 cup of cold watermelon juice. To that I will add 2 tablespoons of an unflavored gelatin. If you're using the envelopes of the unflavored gelatin, you would take 2 envelopes. Now we'll just take a spoon and mix that gelatin in. We'll let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, which works out just perfect for both the time it takes to get our sugar mixture up to temperature. So let's work on making our sugar mixture. So into this saucepan, I'll add 1/4 cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of water, followed by 2 teaspoons of a lemon juice. Again, if you don't have lemon juice, you could do 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. Mix this together so that that sugar can dissolve. Now we'll let our sugar mixture come up to temperature. Again, we're looking for about 235 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm getting a lot more bubbles here. So let's test this with some cold water. Yep. So I put that into the cold water and I was able to clump it into a soft ball. So we're at our proper temperature. So now we'll add 1/4 cup of corn syrup. We'll mix that in here until it's well combined. Now we'll add our gelatin mixture. And I like to whisk it in to our sugar solution until all that gelatin melts. Now this is a watermelon juice and has a lot of great flavor in it, so I'm not going to be adding any more flavoring or extracts at this point. But if you wanted to, you could certainly play around with the flavors. You could do a certain flavored juice at the beginning and then do a different flavoring later. At this point, you can make like a mixed berry gummy bear or fruit punch or tropical punch. Just use your imagination and come up with some creative gummy bear flavors. So it's all well combined. We'll remove it from the heat. Now we can add it to these gummy bear molds. Okay, so I'm going to place this gummy bear mold on the tray into the refrigerator for about 3 hours. I'll bring out that partially filled tray and fill it up with some of this gummy bear solution. We'll make some more watermelon flavored gummy bears. Alright, so the first tray of our chewy orange gummy bears is all ready to be removed from the mold. It's been in the refrigerator for about 3 hours. So all that you need to do is just spread the mold apart to release the edges, then push up. I like to push where the feet are on the gummy bear, and it just pops out nicely. So I'll put them onto a little dish here. Now if you want your gummy bears to be extra chewy, you can let them cure for a day or two, just at room temperature. You would just have them either sit up on a tray, or you could just have them lay down on a platter or something and just allow them time to kind of harden up a little bit, and then they'll be a little bit more chewy for you. Now I did not have to put any sort of an oil or anything on these molds. They're popping out just fine. If you find that your gummy bears are kind of sticking to your mold, you could certainly use a very light spray of a neutral oil just to kind of coat the forms. These are nice and stretchy. These are going to be a nice chewy gummy bear, much like you would find in the store. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put them on this tray upright. I probably will let them cure a little bit. Don't want them to be too sticky and stick to whatever platter you put them in, or to one another once they're in a pile or in a little bag to give as a gift or party favor. Okay, so I have one tray of the Homemade Chewy Gummy Bears in the orange flavor, all out of the form and on this tray. Once the watermelon flavor chewy gummy bears are ready to be removed from the forms, I'll add them to this tray and I'll let this cure at room temperature until tomorrow. Once we reach that point, we'll come back and I'll show you how our homemade chewy gummy bears look. Alright guys, it's been about 48 hours since we last saw each other, and these gummy bears have been sitting. First I had them sitting up in the trays with the bears sitting up, then I had them on their back, then I had them on their front, and they're completely dry, no longer sticky. They have a nice stretch to them, and they're nice and chewy, more like a store-bought gummy bear. So now what I'm going to do is put these into a dish, and I'll give you a closer look at these homemade chewy gummy bears. So here you have it. Here are our orange flavored chewy gummy bears and our watermelon flavored chewy gummy bears. Taking that extra step and putting them on the trays and letting them sit overnight, first sitting upright, then on their back for a number of hours, and then on their front for a number of hours. It gave these gummy bears a chance to harden up. They're nice and chewy, and they're not really sticking to one another. So now what I can do is put them into individual little cellophane bags. I can put a little label on them saying what flavor they are. These would make nice party favors, perhaps for a birthday party. They'd be a sweet little treat that you could add into an Easter basket, or perhaps for movie night you can make your own concession stand and have some popcorn and some homemade gummy bears. Well, if you'd like some more ideas and some different homemade candies that you can make, you can check out a number of videos I have. We have some classic candies that you can try to duplicate at home. Well, I hope you enjoyed our time together while we made these homemade chewy gummy bears. If you're looking for a gummy bear treat option that has a little less sugar, you can check out my homemade healthy gummy bears video as well. Well, if you haven't done so yet, I would really appreciate you subscribing. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Take care.